I want to lump two stories together because I can. And the first one is about Nadine Dorries and her appearance on Talk TV yesterday, the day before. Mad. Mad and extraordinary, and so extraordinary I'm going to play you it. But first, did I say first for Nadine? No, second for Nadine. But first is Petronella Wyatt, who was interviewed on LBC by Andrew Marr. Goodness, I miss Andrew Marr on the BBC. The imitation just lacks bite and lacks content, and people get away with saying the most extraordinary rubbish, which is nodded through. And I don't think Andrew Marr, even if he was persuaded to let things pass, he never quite nodded things through. There was an arched eyebrow, whatever. Anyway, with Petronella Wyatt, she pointed out that Boris was trying to irritate everybody, particularly with his resignation honours. She singled out Charlotte Owen, that's the 26-year-old staffer with the short career, who didn't seem to do very much to earn that gong. You could say, what did she do? What did she see attractive in that millionaire? To quote somebody else. Boris says that he will come back. And Petronella Wyatt, his ex-partner, his ex-girlfriend, says that that's because he has to keep his market value up. And she and I think Andrew Marr, and I think most people are shocked that Boris is putting into the House of Lords people who were partying when the Queen was mourning. He's giving an OBE to somebody who yesterday was on a video stream put out by the Daily Mirror, by the Sunday Mirror, of people partying during lockdown. It's simply shocking. Anyway, Petronella Wyatt for The Spectator. She thinks that the report on Boris is kinder than she was expecting. He does things to annoy, and we shouldn't take him too seriously, she says. She thinks that the report is better than it might have been. And then she quoted Alan J. Lerner. How could you believe me when you said I was a liar? You knew I'd been a liar all my life. Great song, by the way. And she kept saying that he was the architect of his own downfall with persecution mania. He's not a victim. He's not Christ in Parliament. He's not Christ facing the Sanhedrin. He's brought it all on himself. He's intelligent. He's knowledgeable. He fills a room. He can be quite funny. But she points out that he's compulsively repetitive. But he's not a Tory at all, she says. He didn't know anything about Disraeli or Robert Peel. He simply has used the Tory party, the Conservative Party, to catapult himself among the Westminster elite. He's a Westminster elite boy, socially liberal, not a Lee Anderson, not a zealous convert. He's horrified, she thinks, by Brexit. It wasn't what he expected. He's not a true Brexiteer. Brexit for him was a career move, and he was as surprised as anybody when they won. Which brings us to Nadine, and I think for Nadine, Boris was a career move. She nailed her colours to his mast. She won't be the only person who's done that. Have you seen the size of my mast? And on Friday evening, there she was with Tim Montgomery and Kevin Maguire, spouting conspiracy theories like you cannot believe it, talking about people lying, indulging in this nonsense. And her guests were incapable of comment. They weren't even able to intervene in any realistic way. and the moment they did interpose themselves, as Lytton Strachey would have said, she said, let's not get into the weeds. It's amazing TV, as Nadine Dorries always is. Amazing, watchable TV, but it's like looking at a car crash. And in fact, I've not heard her string together so many sentences in one take for a very long time. Clearly, she's passionate about this, but passionate and mad. And I find it extraordinary that she gets away with such astonishingly unparliamentary criticism of people that wouldn't be allowed on the benches in the House of Commons, that would be condemned by the Speaker, condemned by the opposition. She would be reproached. She should be reproached. She shouldn't be taking to the airways to do what she cannot do in the House of Commons. And she should be taken off air. She shouldn't be given this airtime while she is a sitting MP. The moment she resigns, fine. I mean, I'd switch her on occasionally, but only for entertainment. Believe me, not for information. But for your entertainment, here is what she was rabbiting on about. I'm only going to give you a snippet because if you really want the real thing, you're going to have to find it yourself. But this is a snippet of priceless nonsense. It's nonsense.
So I think that's a much bigger question that he's broadening out, actually, Tim, because having watched the way this committee has conducted itself, I think we need to ask the question. Your former employer, Ian Duncan-Smith, went through the same process and told me himself recently about that process and what it was like, and his opinion, which I don't think he'd concur with you right now. And I think we've reached a point now when we have to ask, and we'll go into the substance of what the report's findings are, and I think a lot more is going to come out about this. Have we reached a point now where MPs can any longer judge other MPs? And can MPs, is it right? And I think this committee is a case in point. Is it they've overridden the Met Police's findings? They have held Boris Johnson to account, but they've done this bizarre thing where they have guessed what he thought and guessed what he knew. It's Lord Panic, one of the highest KCs in the land, not a friend to the Conservative Party. He found us to be in contempt over prorogation. A totally neutral man has said himself on numerous occasions that this Privileges Committee is acting as trial, judge and jury, and it's wrong. When it's chairwoman, which person goes to court and is accused where the judge decides that person is guilty before the trial even commences. There's so much about it, I'm afraid, Tim, which needs to be questioned. And the biggest question is, and it's a conversation moving forward, or should there be a proper legal process? Should there be independent legal people who come in and they conduct this process? Because I don't think MPs can be trusted to do it again.
Nadine, you're not an impartial observer yourself. I mean, you are a fan woman of Johnson.
Please, Kevin, I really object to that. Please, don't call me that. Well, I'm not a fan woman. I'm an ally and I'm a loyal supporter. I'm not a fan woman.
But you've just been attacking
I'm not a 16-year-old.
You've been attacking other people as partial. You're partial yourself, aren't you?
Yeah, but I wasn't sat in the committee, Kevin.
No, but right.
And I wouldn't be.
You've taken out 2 of the committee. Criticism. What about the other 5?
So can I just say, Kevin, I would never have agreed to sit on that committee because I am biased and I am impartial. So I would never have sat on that committee for that reason.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think questions around some of the statements that Bernard Jenkins made about how, I wish we had some here now, actually. Some of the comments he made during the hearing of that committee about people who attend, about the responsibility they had to not do that, to show leadership, to act in a way where everybody else had to wait. The comments and the criticisms that I made when he was doing the very same thing, allegedly, himself.
Yeah, this is becoming a giant conspiracy there. That report relies on evidence from Martin Reynolds and Jack Boyd, who worked in Number 10.
They guessed what was going on inside Boris's head.
Who were saying Johnson's Prime Minister, you can't say all the rules and guidance were followed. You just can't say it, and he still said it.
So I'm generally in favour of voters deciding these things at elections rather than committees like this Privileges Committee. And Boris Johnson, was held accountable. He was removed as Tory leader long before this committee reported. He was
By
removed
Conservative
by MPs who felt that he was no longer able to win them an election, which is a way, between elections, voters can have influence.
And how right were they? You were 5 points behind in the polls. We're about 20 today and have been consistently. How right were those Conservative MPs, Tim?
Well, I don't think Boris's situation was getting better. Boris's situation as leader was deteriorating because he kept saying things that the vast majority of voters didn't believe to be true. Those assurances he gave on Partygate, they were incredible. And we did find out in the committee's report, he told the Commons that he had reassurances that the Downing Street was acting within the rules.
And he did.
But he gave the impression that these were authoritative sort of assurances from the civil servants. Actually, they were from casual observations from party political advisors. It was things like that which I think showed that the Prime Minister was being casual about the arrangements for governing social distance during the time he was Prime Minister.
Again, you just said something that's wrong. The key advisor was the Director General of the Civil Service. So he wasn't a political. He was political, but he was also a DG in the Civil Service.
Not on the compliance with general party
That was
rules.
where he took his advice. And I think even Sue Gray advised him.